I'm Shep Hyken, and here's what's coming up on this edition of Be Amazing or Go Home. The cult of the customer. How do you get the customer to the promised land in your business relationship? We'll walk you through the 5 phases of the customer and how to get to customer amazement. Fully staffed. How do you find and keep amazing employees? Well, Eric Chester guides us in the right direction to find the right people in today's very competitive job market. Powered by hope. Teri Greige is in the studio to share her story about how she beat cancer and how she's inspiring others to save lives. You'll want to stick around for her amazing story. And batteries included. What type of person are you? Batteries included or batteries not included? The amazing quote shows us what it takes to be a batteries included type of person. So, are you ready to be amazing? Well, stay tuned for all of this and more coming up next on Be Amazing or Go Home. Hello, I'm Shep Hyken, and this is Be Amazing or Go Home, the show that's dedicated to take you from average to amazing. Let's begin with the cult of the customer. Now, there's nothing scary about the word cult, especially once you understand what the word actually means. Cult comes from the Latin word cultus, which originally meant care or tending. So let's envision a definition of the word that involves creating a culture inside an organization that focuses on taking care of their customers and tending to employees. Customers go through 5 phases, or cults as I like to call them, over the course of a business relationship. From the first time they choose to do business with you to the point where they become repeat and then loyal customers, every customer goes through these stages on their journey to being amazed by your customer service and experience. So, here are the 5 cults that all customers go through. Number 1, uncertainty. The first time customers do business with you, they can only hope that it will be a good experience. The word hope is an interesting word. It has an air of uncertainty to it because customers haven't experienced your customer service. They're uncertain. Maybe your organization has a great reputation, but customers have to find that out for themselves. Number 2, alignment. This is when customers move from uncertainty to understanding the relationship and experience that they're going to have with your company. It's based on a promise that you make to the customer. It could be a promise of good service, low prices, or fast delivery. As customers do business with you, they begin to understand these promises, your company's culture, and more importantly, why they might enjoy doing business with you. But still, it's too early for them to tell for sure, as they've yet to fully experience what you and your company are promising. Number 3, experience. Customers quickly move into the cult of experience as they interact with your employees or even a website. They're moving further away from uncertainty as they experience what it's like to do business with you. But there's still a hint of uncertainty. They may like what they've experienced thus far, but also wonder if it's going to happen again the next time they do business with you. Number 4, ownership. This is when customers move completely away from uncertainty into a feeling of ownership and that they own their experience with you. This comes from the consistent and predictable experience they have with you. Hopefully experiences that are ideally better than average, more than just satisfactory. They know it'll happen. They trust it will happen. The more it does happen, the more likely they are to go from a repeat customer to a loyal customer. If they're happy with their owned experience, customers in this phase will use the word always followed by something positive, which not only implies they own their experience with you, but it also implies they're ready to move into the next cult in their journey. And that is number 5, amazement. This is the cult you want your customers to be in. When you have consistent and predictable above average experiences, you're in the cult of amazement. Remember, the cult of ownership is when customers know they can always count on a better than average experience. However, if there's a problem, the customers can immediately regress back to the cult of uncertainty. This probably will happen the first time or two there's a problem. But if you manage those problems and complaints well, customers will stay in amazement and say things like, even when there's a problem, I can always count on them to take care of me. The cult of amazement. This is where you want your customers to be. How do you find, engage, and keep amazing employees? Well, Eric Chester is one of the leading voices on employee engagement and workplace culture and has the answers to those questions. And in Eric's new book, he tackles a new problem. In this tough labor market, the job hunters have become the hunted, and the employers can't rely on the hiring tactics of yesteryear. So, getting high-performing and loyal employees is as important as ever. And here to talk about how to get your business fully staffed is the man himself, Eric Chester. How you doing, Eric?
Hey, Shep, how you doing?
I am doing great. We're great. It's just a pleasure to have you on the show. It's an honor. So you are an acclaimed workforce researcher. And is this something like in high school you said, this is what I want to do when I grow up?
Yeah, no, actually what I wanted to do was host a television show called Be Amazing or Go Home.
Well, you know what? There could be opportunity there if you just stick around long enough.
There you go. No, I when I was in high school, I wanted to be a teacher, and I taught school for a few years, and there were more teachers than positions available, so I became a motivational speaker for teenagers. I spent 10 years in gymnasiums, and for the past 20 years, I've worked with companies and organizations who hire a lot from the younger labor pool for frontline positions. So that's basically how I really started studying great employers.
And you know, I've been speaking myself, call it motivational or business speaking, for almost 37, 38 years, and I knew who you were because I saw this transition. Who is this guy, Eric Chester, coming into the business world, talking about how to hire young people? And that's because you spend so many years not only teaching, but motivating young people, which is fascinating. So, and I've run into you at conferences all over the world, really. We've had the chance to enjoy the show. But let's get to it. Your book, Fully Staffed, with the subtitle, The Definitive Guide to Finding and Keeping Great Employees. This is the latest and greatest that you've come up with. This is not your first book.
Oh, no, this is my fifth leadership book.
Your fifth book, and it's about being fully staffed. Today, we have a great opportunity. There's a great time in the world. The economy is bustling, but that creates a big problem for people that run companies, HR departments, and even small or big business. It doesn't matter, and that's how do you hire good people? There's a problem with that.
That's right. The bad news for a great economy, Shep, is that as you mentioned, the hunters become the hunted, and we are now in the middle of a horrible. In fact, the rest of the
hunters, by the way, being employers.
Employers, right?
Right.
And now the job seekers are the ones that are really the balance of power has tipped to the job seekers. You ask anybody who's in the job market, and especially for the kind of jobs that this book addresses are the non-sexy jobs. I mean, it's tough to get a job as America's Next Idol, or to be
there's only a finite number of people that can sing like that.
Exactly right. Or being a YouTube star, professional skateboarder, all those things that are being constantly, shoved at your kids and my kids in terms of these are the kinds of opportunities, things that we never thought about. But how do you get a plumber? How do you get somebody excited about doing that job, or perhaps maybe working in a call center, or being a retail cashier, or flipping burgers, or cleaning hotel rooms? All these other kinds of jobs.
They're needed. That's we got to run the world runs on these kinds of jobs.
Absolutely, and they're not all unsexy jobs. They're just thought of as unsexy. So I've spent the past 3 years talking to the best employers that I could find in industries that you may not typically think of as a place, that your kid would want to work, and not just your kid. Well, let's say pest control, or being a chimney sweep. What about just anything as a short order cook, bus drivers, whatever it takes. It's the people who are actually doing the work, and we now know that labor in most cities, the unemployment is down to 3%.
That's pretty
sometimes
low.
2%.
Yep.
And employers don't want to hire from that 2% that, are sitting on their...
This is what's left? This is what I have to take?
This is what I got. No,
Right.
they want good people, and good people already have jobs. So it's this big conundrum for employers. How do I find and keep great people in these jobs that I have? I can get customers all day long. The economy's bustling.
Right.
I just can't find people.
So give me 3 quick tips out of the book.
What starts with being a great place to work? And I know that sounds amazing, but really, it sounds simple. Let me use the definitive word, amazing. You have to be an amazing employer. Now, what does that mean, right? So you ask most business owners, managers, sell me your company, sell me your organization as I'm a prospective customer. And they can say, well, here's why you want to eat my hamburgers, here's why you want our delivery service, etc. They know how to sell it to customers. Then I say, okay, sell me your jobs. The frontline jobs that you're trying to hire for, sell me those. And they usually say, well, we have a competitive wage and we offer some benefits and we have casual Friday. And okay.
So does everybody.
So does everybody. That's
right?
the ticket to entry. What can you offer employees that your competitors can't say?
And that would be?
Well, that's when you get into employers who are doing some original and creative things. Maybe they have a special way of celebrating birthdays. Maybe they close down on Fridays and take everybody out for frisbee golf or bowling. Maybe they do something.
I want to work at this company.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we all hear now about the amazing things that most of those companies that are headquartered in Silicon Valley do, right? We always know, they have ping pong tables and 9 company cafeterias and free food. But wait a second, I run a small delivery company. I'm not Google. And the answer is, Shep, you don't have to be. You just have to be the best place to work in your community, in your industry. Mm-hmm. And if you are, then
and a good person to work for
that's
or
it.
with.
That's what it, and it starts there, Shep. You've got to be likable. And if you're not likable, at least respectable, so that the employees that you bring in look at you and go, the person is giving me that they're honest, they're fair, they treat me well. They know I have a life to live.
It's a good experience.
And they give me a good experience.
So real quick, because we're running out of time, give me 2 more, because I asked for 3. Give me another one.
I think, first of all, you look and say, we've got to offer fair compensation, but that's more than just money. Mm-hmm. It goes beyond that. We also want to be a company that acknowledges our people. There are certain ways that you've got to say thank you, and we know that millennials are being tagged as being the trophy generation, but we all want trophies and awards.
I don't care if you're 80 years old or 18 years old. You want to be appreciated.
You want to be appreciated. You want a pat on the back. So great companies do those kinds of things. They have acknowledgement built into their culture. And another thing they do is they try to grow their people. Now, some people say, well, if you grow them, they'll just leave. Well, if you don't grow them, they're going to stay, right?
Exactly. That would be even worse.
That'd be worse. So
right.
You want to grow your people, even if it means growing them to the standpoint where you can't employ them anymore. If everybody is on the move, and everybody watching this show wants to grow their business, mm-hmm. their organization, your employees want to grow too. So you need to have a learning agenda for each employee to help them get where they're going. And if you do that, they're not going to leave quickly. They'll stay.
Right. So number 1, give them a creative environment to work in, or not necessarily creative, but a good environment. Number 2, compensate them well. Number 3, appreciate them, which seems like such common sense. It's unfortunately not always so common. The book is titled Fully Staffed by Eric Chester. Depending upon when you're watching this episode, it's either coming out or has just been released. I urge you, if you're in any type of business, hiring any type of person, this is the book you want to get. Eric, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks,
You're
Shep.
awesome.
I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Time now for the amazing app brought to you by First Rule. And this technology makes your life safe, simple, and secure, and thus very convenient. Clear uses your eyes and fingerprints to confirm your identity, helping you breeze through airports, stadiums, and more. Instead of traditional ID documents, Clear uses biometrics and transforms them into an encrypted code to confirm it's really you. Biometrics are identifiers such as your irises and your fingerprints, distinct characteristics that are the most accurate forms of identification. Not only is Clear convenient by getting you quickly through crowded airports and stadiums, but it also keeps your data safe, private, and secure. Clear even has ambassadors on site to make sure you have a convenient experience and to get you where you need to go, even with time to spare. So there's no more getting in line, showing your ID, or fumbling through cards and papers to prove that you are who you are. With Clear, you're the best ID. Just check in at a clear location with your eyes or your fingertips, and you'll be moving in no time. By saving precious time and creating the ultimate convenience, Clear is truly an amazing piece of technology and an amazing app. What if you had just a 6% chance to live? Would you train and compete in an Ironman competition while going through chemotherapy? Well, that's what Teri Greige did, and not only did she beat cancer, but she also crossed the finish line at the Ironman World Championship. And here to share her amazing story and talk about how she's inspiring others is Teri Greige. Hey, Teri, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Shep.
I'm excited. This is the book, Powered by Hope, and an extraordinary book that tells your story. So just for our fans who are watching today, tell us a little bit about your background and tell us the story, because it's not just, and by the way, I'm going to tell you, I read the book and I'm an emotional guy. So I said, I hope I get through this interview without having a tear, because it really is a special story.
Well, thank you. I was born and raised in St. Louis, and I married my high school sweetheart. We have 2 kids, Kyle and Katie, that are now 30 and 26. Was an RN, a nurse, for a number of years. Kind of took up athletics later in life. I was an athlete in high school and got into triathlons. I did an Ironman, and then I started having symptoms, not feeling
Now,
very
an
good.
Ironman, so everybody knows,
Sure.
is more than just a triathlon.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's 3 sports: swim, bike, run. The swim for an Ironman is 2.4 miles in the open water, a 112-mile bike, and then a marathon, 26.2-mile run.
Jeez. So you swim a little and just, let's go for a little bike ride, about
Right.
100 some odd miles.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
And then a marathon.
Right.
Yeah.
So I did that, my first one in 2008, and I came in 5th in my age group and the 4th place woman qualified for the Ironman World Championship in Kona. So I went the next year, and I wasn't feeling well doing my training, and I was 10 minutes slower. 2 weeks later, I had a colonoscopy, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer.
So you competed, you sensed something wasn't feeling good. You were a little slower, didn't understand why. I mean, I've read part of this in the book, but
Right.
now I'm hearing it from you.
Right.
And said, wow, I'm going to go, I didn't, you had your colonoscopy. Was it just planned, or did you feel like something was wrong?
No, so I was 48, screening starts at 50, and I had been having some bleeding. I had some injuries that didn't heal. I just, some days I trained, I felt like I had buckets of cement on my feet, different things like that. So I say after, the Ironman mentality, we say there's 4 things. There's, swim, bike, run, you have to, those disciplines.
Yep.
And then you have to train your brain.
Train your brain, and the mental toughness it
Right.
takes to drive through all that pain you were in.
Correct. Well, and that's kind of worked against me then, because I was, I did have the mental toughness, and I kind of put those symptoms to the side, training for the race. But then I knew once the race was over, I'm like, okay, I have to address this. I had this dream of still going to Kona for the World Championship. NBC, every year they show the race on TV, and they tell about 3 or 4 or 5 inspirational stories from around the world. And I knew that physically I would never be able to qualify, but I thought, what if they wanted to tell my story? What if I could come through this enough to be able to participate, compete in that race? And so I sent my story into Ironman. I was diagnosed in September of 2009. The summer of 2011, after I had gone through all of my treatments and surgeries and was placed on maintenance chemotherapy, I sent my story into Ironman, and they chose me.
But you have to qualify with a certain time.
Correct.
But you were close, but not quite close enough under normal circumstances.
Correct. Yep.
So even with all of this going on in your life, you're still competing pretty darn close to what's optimum as far as qualification goes.
Yeah, pretty good.
Wow. So you competed, you finished. And I think if I read correctly, it wasn't so much the time, it was crossing the finish line
Absolutely.
that was important to you.
Yes. Absolutely.
So talk to me about how you were feeling during that time.
Oh my gosh. I think if I could give a gift to everybody, it would say, pick your finish line and cross it. Amazing experience. My family was there at the finish line.
Your doctor was there.
My doctor was there.
You had a whole team.
35 friends and family. I call it Teri's troops. I had an army that went with me.
Wow.
I don't think we can get where we want to get all on our own.
Yep.
We're better off with
There's synergy with the team, no doubt about that.
Yep.
All right, so you get home. How soon are you back on your routine of chemo and maintenance and all of that?
Oh, well, right away. Maintenance.
Right away.
I stayed on it, yes. Maintenance chemo. I was on, I didn't really, I was on that when I was training and went to the race.
And there's somewhere in this book I read, it's like you're diagnosed, you have a bag of chemo that's being fed into you intravenously, and you set it on the seat or like a little stool next to you and continue to bike ride and train.
Correct.
While this is all going on. This is unbelievable. So today, what are you doing?
So today, what I love to do is to share my story to inspire other cancer survivors, thrivers, fighters that are in, I call it the greatest race of their life. So I have a little nonprofit called Powered by Hope. And we
Powered
do
by
that.
Hope. Yep. It's
There you go.
Title of the book,
Yep.
Powered by Hope,
We,
the Teri Greige story.
Raise a lot of money for cancer research. I sit on a bunch of cancer boards. And then the other thing is I like to go and tell my story to raise awareness about colorectal cancer. It is the second leading cause of cancer death, the third most commonly diagnosed. 1 in 20 people are diagnosed with this. And if we,
1 in 20.
1 in 20.
Like of the population.
Yes.
1 in 20, 5%.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And it's skyrocketing in people 45 and younger. The incidence is.
So it used to be something we checked when we were 50.
Correct. Now it's 45.
Oh, wow.
And it's just amazing. So if just you and I sharing this today, if we can save one life, it'll be worth it.
That's the goal. That's the goal. So if there's, I often, not always, always sometimes, no, I often end my interviews with the one thing question. We've talked for just a few minutes about your background, and it is inspiring. I urge everybody to read this book. It's a quick read. I loved it. Great story. But what's the one thing you want this audience to remember when we're finished today?
If I would say really it's take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and if something is off, like for me, having the symptoms, don't be embarrassed about anything that's going on. Go ask for help, seek help, because it may save your life.
Go to a doctor. And as far as colorectal cancer goes, I mean, the symptoms are if you see any blood, if you feel any pain, that type of thing, go see a doctor because the colonoscopy is not scary.
No, and there's many other tests out now that are very simple and non-invasive.
Great, so please do that. And if we've been able to help one person watching this go, oh my, I'm going to go see a doctor, I think we've done great work today.
Exactly.
Right, thank you, Teri. Great to have you on the show.
You too, thank you.
Well, it's time to hear from you and time to ask Shep. Now, you can find me anywhere on the web, including these social channels. So use the hashtag AskShep to ask me your questions and share your amazing stories. So let's begin. Kayla Blackman is a customer service rep at eprep.com, and she asks, what impact do you feel an organization's voice menu system and those annoying menu changed messages has on customer experience? Well, this is a tricky question. Those voice menus, also known as IVRs, which stand for Interactive Voice Recognition, can be frustrating. Or punching a series of numbers to get to the right department, that's frustrating as well. These technologies seem to sometimes be more convenient for the company than the customer. Not all the time, but we've all experienced it. The secret to making this technology work is to have a quick and easy way to get to a human. At the beginning of the interaction, that computerized voice should say something like, if at any time you would rather talk to one of our agents, push 0. The fallback to a human can be what saves the experience. Now, let's hear from Joe Boyer, who manages a team of 20 people, and he says, I have a tendency to micromanage, but want to avoid that when necessary. How can I get the company to manage itself? Well, this is about delegation. Hire the right people, onboard and train them well, and then let them do their job. Let them know what you expect, and then let them do it. That's both delegation and empowerment. And applaud them when they do well, and their confidence will build. Coach them to be better when it's appropriate. Over time, they'll take ownership of their roles and responsibilities. My personal coach, Dan Sullivan, once put us through an exercise. He asked, let's say that you knew you were going to to be away from business for a year. You have a month to prepare your people. What would you do? Now, we spent a day working on that simple question, and at the end of the day, we felt we could pull together what was needed for the company to run without us being there for a year. But there's much more to it than that. But that's the gist of it. That is a great way to begin to create the company that can actually manage itself. Finally, we have Nicole Lang, a corporate event planner, and here's her question. It seems today's customers don't just appreciate good service, but they now expect it. How can I meet or even exceed today's customer service standards? Well, our customers are smarter than ever when it comes to customer service and experience. And they've learned from great companies like Amazon or any other brand that you might admire. They now expect this type of service from everyone they do business with. So, how can you meet these new service standards? Well, look at the companies that you admire most. What do you like about them? Make a list of these attributes and then determine if your company can do any of them. And if the company can, simple, then do it. Implement and raise your service standards to meet and exceed your customers' expectations. So, are you ready to be amazing? Remember, you can find me just about anywhere on social media. So, connect with us on our social channels and don't forget to use the hashtag AskShep to ask me your question or share your amazing story. Time now for the amazing quote brought to you by First Rule. And it comes from Dan Sullivan, founder and president of the Strategic Coach Program. There are two kinds of people, batteries included and batteries not included. Now, people have often compared me to the Energizer Bunny, as I seem to go and go and go with an endless amount of energy. There's no doubt I am a batteries included kind of guy, and I like spending time with others who come with batteries included. Words and phrases I would use to describe this type of person include self-starters, willing to take charge, doers, motivated, up for a challenge, willing to step outside their comfort zone, and more. I think you get the idea. And then there are batteries not included kind of people. Words and phrases to describe that type of person include negative, pessimistic, little initiative, complainers, and energy vampires. Now, that last one is ugly. The old phrase, they can suck the energy out of a room, comes to mind here. Who would you rather be around or work with? What type of person gets regular or accelerated promotions? What type gets more sales? I could ask a host of similar questions, but it doesn't take long before you realize that a batteries included personality is a good thing, especially in the working world. Now, here's something important to remember. You don't have to be the Energizer Bunny, full of life and energy, to be thought of as a batteries included type of person. You don't have to have an outgoing, gregarious, life of the party personality. What you do need is a certain type of energy, the type that adds to whatever is happening instead of taking away from it. You must, at a minimum, have a joy for what it is that you do, a desire to make things better, a willingness to be open-minded, and this one's big, the mindset of a contributor. That's what batteries included people do. They contribute, they add. Batteries not included people detract and take away. Ask yourself, which category do you fall into? If your batteries aren't already included, find ways to inject that energy into everything that you do. You can start small. I guarantee it will make a world of difference for both you and the people that you do business with. Well, that wraps up this edition of Be Amazing or Go Home. And remember, you can find me just about anywhere on social media, so be sure to connect with us on our social channels, and don't forget to use the hashtag AskShep to ask me questions or share your story. Thanks for tuning in. This is Shep Hyken reminding you to always be amazing.